This man who pretended to be a deaf mute wasn't actually blind. He used his sharp hearing and piano tuning skills to fake blindness and secretly spy on others. Those long, elegant legs he saw were more precious to him than life itself. In his free time, he would sit by the temple gates, begging for coins. He even used his blind identity to live in government housing and collect welfare. Over time, he grew to enjoy his double life. His name was Akash, great by name, but not by fate. Little did he know, his act was about to cost him dearly. One day, he received an invitation from a rich man to perform piano at his home. But the man's wife, Shimi, refused to let him in. Akash insisted, drawn by the promise of a generous payment. Their argument caught the attention of an elderly neighbor across the hall. To avoid suspicion, Shimi reluctantly let him in. As soon as he sat at the piano, Akash froze. There was a corpse in the corner. Fear nearly made him wet himself. Trying to stay calm, he asked to use the bathroom, purposely stepping in a puddle of blood so it looked like an accident. But the moment he entered the restroom, he found another man inside, armed with a gun. Survival instincts kicked in. He acted perfectly blind, fooling both killers with his flawless performance. The body on the floor turned out to be the very man who had hired him. Akash continued to play the piano, calmly pretending nothing was wrong, while Simi and her lover, Inspector Sinha, frantically cleaned up the scene, stuffing the corpse into a suitcase, wiping blood, and sweeping the floor. After leaving their house, Akash sat trembling on the street, torn about whether to report it. Just then, a lottery seller offered him a scratch ticket and said, "God always blesses the blind." Remembering the rich man's kindness, Akash decided to go to the police. But the moment he entered the station, he froze again. The murderer, Sinha, was there in uniform, a police officer. Thinking fast, Akash changed his story. "I want to confess. I accidentally stepped on my pet cockroach, Shanks Young. He was like family to me. We lived together for years. Now I, the white-haired, must bury the young." The officers stared. Was this man blind or just stupid? However, Sinha suspected that Akash was faking his blindness, so he insisted on driving him home. Once inside, Sinha saw the newspapers in the house. A blind man can read the newspaper? Akash explained that he was too poor to buy toilet paper, so he had to use newspapers. Sinha then grabbed a small knife and sliced it into the door behind Akash. Akash didn't react, which finally convinced Sinha that he was truly blind. The next day, the wealthy man's body was found in the wild. Since he was a well-known philanthropist, Sime told reporters that her husband had left the house with 10 million cash that morning and was likely targeted by criminals. Akash, being the last person to visit the wealthy man, was brought in for questioning. Listening to Sime's righteous speech about catching the killer, Akash couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "It's you, both you and Sime are the murderers. You think I'm truly blind. I can see everything." But this was just Akash's inner fantasy. In reality, he still signed the confession. At the funeral, the old lady next door told the officer that she had seen an unknown man visit the wealthy man's house on the day of his death, and he had left with a suitcase. Hearing this, Akash felt he had found in a lie. The officer, Sinha, was informed about this. However, when Simi realized she had neglected the old lady, she pushed her down the stairs to silence her. This scene was just as Akash entered the elevator. He had hoped to meet the old lady and discuss things, but he ended up witnessing this second kill. The next day, Simi visited Akash at his place, saying she wanted him to teach her daughter piano, and she brought some cookies as a gift. However, when Akash turned around after preparing her coffee, Simi suddenly put on a scary mask, but Akash didn't scream. Seeing his calm expression, Simi switched to her second plan. She poured a mysterious drug into his coffee in front of him. Akash was torn. Drinking it was risky, but not drinking it was equally dangerous. He quickly thought of a plan, thinking, "If I add this to the cookies, it should taste good." Sime praised him and took out a large, scary talisman to ward him off, but Akash dodged the trick. Seeing through her plot, he admitted defeat and said, "Sime, I didn't see anything, and I promise I'll leave this city. Can we just leave it at that?" At that point, Cindy calmed down and explained her side. She didn't intend to kill the wealthy man. It was just that it was her birthday, and her husband had told her he was going to be away for a few days, but he returned early with a surprise, and caught her and Sinha together. She killed him in a fit of panic. Akash cursed her inwardly, but when he suddenly felt dizzy, he realized that the eye drops Simi had just poured in were nothing but a diversion. The real drug was in the cookies she had given him earlier. At that moment, Akash's girlfriend, Cherry, returned home. A child downstairs showed her a video of Akash in the apartment, and she realized he had been pretending to be blind all along. She went upstairs to confront him, but Simi, dressed seductively, answered the door. Simi explained that she had just lost her husband, and that she had come to help Akash through his hard times. Cherry almost believed her, but was suspicious when she saw a glass of wine on the windowsill and the two of them dressed so properly. She left angrily, telling Akash that she was going to the cinema to calm down. The child asked for money for the video, but Cherry slapped him hard, leaving him crying. Some time later, when Akash woke up, he found everything around him pitch black. He hurried to the bathroom, frantically washing his eyes. Meanwhile, Simi patiently waited in the room, relieved that the blind man was indeed blind. After all, no one would believe that a blind man could witness a murder. She then found the boy and deleted the video under the pretense of reviewing it. Later, Simi shared the events with Sinha, but Sinha's perspective was that only the dead's mouth is the most sealed. On the other side, Akash sensed that they wouldn't let this go so easily. He was preparing to run away with the money when Sinha, already waiting on the rooftop with a noose tied, attempted to stage Akash's hanging. As Akash struggled between life and death, he accidentally knocked Sinha over with a fight move, spun around, and ran a few streets in confusion. Eventually, he slammed into a utility pole, but lying there proved to be a blessing in disguise as Sinha couldn't find him anymore. When Akash woke up again, he found himself in a hospital. The kind doctors had him prepped for surgery, claiming they would cure his eyesight. At that moment, Akash felt something was wrong. They said they were going to treat his eyes, but why were they drawing on his kidneys? At that point, the doctor stopped pretending and said, "I have no use for my heart. Just give it to me." Akash quickly promised them 10 million if they let him go, swearing on the goddess tattoo on a woman's arm. The woman was immediately stunned. How could a blind man know about the goddess on her arm? It turned out Akash had realized they were part of a lottery-selling gang from before. Their attitude toward him did a 180. In India, even the most notorious criminals would believe in duties, and Akash had described their physical features, which led them to believe that Akash was the incarnation of a deity with a third eye. Akash quickly manipulated them, promising they could all earn 10 million by listening to him, setting the stage for a revenge plan. In a twist, Akash arranged to meet Simi. Both had their own agendas, but once the car left the city, Akash drugged Simi, controlling her. They called Sinha and demanded 10 million to ransom Simi or else expose their secrets. After Sinha agreed, Akash and Simi, driven by the lure of 10 million, abandoned their faiths. In order to split the money, they tied Akash to a wheelchair. Meanwhile, Sinha followed instructions and placed the money in the elevator. A young man on the second floor grabbed the money, but when he saw Sinha running up the stairs, he yelled, "Wait, this is the second floor." With a gunshot, the young man fell, and the phone call ended. Meanwhile, the lottery woman learned that Sinha had entered the elevator and decided to pull the building's main switch. Trapped in the elevator, Sinha angrily fired his gun, and a ricochet shot hit him, killing him in a gruesome manner. Back with Akash and Simi, they realized they had to team up temporarily for survival. Simi, trying to show sincerity, untied Akash's ropes. But once the ropes were off, she struck Akash with a cane. As she prepared to crush him, the doctor returned. Unsure of the situation, he swung a cane at Akash, knocking him in the face, then grabbed a surgical knife and aimed it at the doctor, slashing him repeatedly. As the doctor was about to collapse, Akash hugged Simi from behind. The doctor, seeing this, quickly drugged Simi and shoved her into the trunk. Just then, the lottery woman called to say that the money Sinha had given was fake. The doctor replied that Akash and Simi had escaped, and he was planning to hide for a while. On the way, the doctor, in gratitude, explained that he had drawn blood from Simi earlier and discovered that her blood type matched that of a chieftain's daughter. The chieftain's daughter was waiting for an organ transplant, and if Simi was sold to him, the doctor would receive $1 billion. He planned to share the money with Akash and use Simi's cornea to restore Akash's sight. 2 years later, while traveling, Cherry, Akash's girlfriend, happened to see a familiar face on a poster for a concertmaster. Intrigued, she entered the bar, only to realize that Akash had changed his appearance and was now performing as a master in a different city. After the performance, Akash shared everything with Cherry. It turned out that after hearing the doctor's plan, Akash couldn't bear to let a living soul be sold off. He had a moment of compassion for Simi. Just then, a sound came from the trunk. The doctor got out of the car to administer another injection to Simi, but when the car started again, the driver's seat had been replaced with Simi. In that instant, Simi had turned the tables and killed the doctor. Unaware, Akash continued pleading for the doctor to spare Simi. Simi, surprised by Akash's concern, decided to let him go. However, once they had driven far enough, Simi swerved the car and slammed into Akash, nearly killing him. At the last moment, a blind rabbit suddenly dashed out, causing Simi to swerve in shock, and the car flipped, crashing into a ditch and exploding. Simi died in the crash. Later, Akash was rescued by friends and began a new life. Upon hearing Akash's story, Cherry realized she had misunderstood him. She agreed that Akash should have sold Simi to restore his sight. Akash glanced at Cherry without saying a word, then turned and walked away. However, as he reached the street corner, he kicked an empty can, and the film ended. Now, here's the question. How did Akash know that a blind rabbit had caused the crash, and how did he know it was a blind rabbit? Also, what about his extravagant cane and his new, more fashionable attire? You tell me, you figure it out. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Every story hides a truth, and every truth hides a paradox.
This is ParadoxReel, signing off. See you next time.